DJ and BK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Masters update, Jose Murillo Thauble, 2 under through 7, tied with Sam Burns for the lead as they start playing. You still doing play-by-play in the studio, PK? Still screaming at the TV?
I'm just watching passionately. VJ Singh's up on par 3, 193 yards. I once worked out in the same hotel gym with VJ Singh, with his trainer giving me the evil eye at the entire time he was there, was telling me without saying a word, "Don't you dare get within 20 feet of us."
I need a protective bubble.
Yeah, it's like 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday.
Yeah. All right, let's get to Brian Taylor joining us from Augusta National.
This 2026 Masters Update live from Augusta is brought to you by Copper Rock, where the pros play on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Brian, good morning.
Good morning from Augusta. Can you believe it? 90th Masters is officially underway. Bob and I got up early to get out there and watch the honorary starters, and man, such a cool thing. A lot of pageantry, a lot of tradition. Just love this stuff.
Everybody talks about how spectacular that piece of property is, and it's growing, right, as they purchase stuff that's adjacent and expand the property. Waiting for the Masters to start, I'm watching a bunch of stuff and reading a bunch of stuff. Apparently they've done a ton of stuff, like TV trucks are underground now. Player parking is underground. This is turning like into Disneyland for golf here. They've got all the stuff backstage hidden from the public.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, the behind the curtain stuff is amazing. I mean, even this press building that, gosh, I think we're going on, got to be close to 10 years in this quote unquote new press building. And, you know, we walk out the back door, we get into a golf cart, they take us down under a tunnel, and then we, surface back up near where the old press building was and near the first fairway. And then they drop us off right there, and you're kind of there. So yeah, and there's another tunnel that you can see that goes down, and comes up in the founder circle. And right there is where the new Player Performance Center is. And the players are parking underground. And it's a spectacular building, to house the players and their families. It's got physio, it's got, restaurant, it's got relaxation, it's got locker room and all that stuff in there. And, I did a little walk through the golf course yesterday and stopped at the little sort of service area. You've got concessions, and you've got merchandise, and then there's the restrooms. And I just have to, and I think this is okay for radio, but first time I came to the Masters, the men's room was the old trough. You guys remember the trough? You guys had to have experienced the trough in the past. That
the
was
trough. Yes. That was San Diego.
An uncomfortable
the
experience.
San Diego had that.
That's an uncomfortable experience. And I was like 26 years old, and it was like kind of it's a coming of age moment to be able to, actually, make that thing all work. And so I walked in there this week, and it's this like state of the art, facility. It's unbelievable. It's like so nice in there. I'm like, there's not really anything that could maybe show progress quite like that. So, but so it is amazing, and it's expanding. And I'm sorry for that story.
I've covered golf in multiple states, right? But obviously I've not covered the Masters. So I have an idea of how many credentialed media would be there. Compare that, and I know you have too, compare that to how many credentialed media are there in Augusta.
Compare a credentialed media in Augusta to where?
Any other tournament. The
other PGA Tour.
Oh, regular golf tournament?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, is it much bigger?
Oh, gosh, it's got to be like 25 times, I would think. Maybe
that's
more.
What I was wondering.
Yeah, I mean, a typical, I'm trying to even compare it to other majors, right? Like going to the U.S. Open or the PGA Championship. I would guess there's got to be more here. This is the biggest event in golf. I think that's safe to say. It's one of the biggest events in sports. And, listen to the chairman yesterday. listening to him, how he has this understanding and of the fact that it is one of the top events in sports, that kind of their responsibility to continue to, create the best experience, not only for the players and those attending, but the press and everyone that's here, right? I mean, they take every single aspect of that, and they want it to be this experience unlike any other, and they do that. They focus on that every year, and then of course they focus on the ways that they can contribute to the community, their core values, all that kind of stuff. And we talked about how they redid the local municipal golf course here, and so on and so forth. But yeah, it's amazing. The practice facility that I'm staring at, just outside the windows here is unlike anything. Scotty Scheffler said he could spend all day. He could wear himself out on this range. It's so great to practice at. So that's something he's like, I have to consciously not do that so that I can conserve some energy.
When you interact with these guys, so much of this game is mental. I'm just curious, watching press conferences or practice rounds, do you get the feeling that some of these guys are really dialed in, some of these guys maybe not, some of these guys, well, in the case of Rory McIlroy, all the pressure off his shoulders? What kind of feeling do you get? Because you can get fairly close to these guys and you listen to them talk.
Yeah, that's a really good question, DJ. I mean, you think about Rory specifically. He pulled the curtain back quite a bit this year. He was very relaxed, and he shared a lot of things. He talked about how he tried multiple approaches when he came here over the years. Sometimes he would come really early. Sometimes he would show up late. Sometimes he would get out and do a lot of practice rounds, others fewer. He would do media, and then he did a year without doing media. Like, these guys all take different approaches as, to try to handle all of the, the pressure that comes around, trying to win this green jacket, the coveted green jacket. And so, Matt Fitzpatrick, a real analytics guy, uses analytics on a weekly basis to create his game plan and his execution and what he's going to do. And he was asked, how do you balance analytics with sort of the feel, in this game? And he, specifically here to Augusta, how it's so unique and different. And he says that, he tries to treat this like every other week, and he even acknowledged in a separate question when he was talking about his preparation and form, he again said, you're supposed to treat this like every other week, right? So I think players consciously try to stay in their routine of an every week type thing, because golf is that way. I think athletes are that way. I think they like they're very routine based. I think they like to do things the same all the time, especially when things are working, and not try to get too off that schedule. But it's hard to do that here at Augusta. Jason Day talked about the par 3 contest and how, amazing it is that that's on a Wednesday, that there's so much fun and laughter and lightheartedness, around that event on a Wednesday before a major. And his quote was, typically guys get pretty quiet about Wednesday, before a major championship. So there's a lot of just differences and nuances to certainly what this is. And all of it plays into making it, the event that it is and the unique experience.
You spoke about the chairman of the Augusta National Golf Club and Masters Tournament. That's Fred Ridley, and he's been talking about rolling back the golf ball. What do you take from that, and do you think that we'll get to that point? Because obviously these guys are bombing it unlike any other time.
Yeah, I mean, his quote, failure is not an option, not only for preserving Augusta National, but also just the integrity of the game going forward. And so he, again, reaffirmed his support. It's not his job to undertake this, but he is, certainly in support of this. This is the USGA and the R&A. They're the governing bodies for the rules of golf for most of the world. And so their initiative originally was to come out 2028 for the professionals and then 2030 for the rest of the game. And it's kind of since been pushed back to, hey, we're going to just shoot for 2030 for everybody. And, he used that kind of also piggybacking off of the changes that they look at. And he said, whenever they look at making any changes to Augusta National, they want to stay true to the design, factors that Alistair McKenzie and Bobby Jones used when they created Augusta National. What are the shot values? What was the intention for shot and for play and that kind of thing? So it's not just like, hey, we need to. 13 is a good example. That was a big change a couple of years ago where they lengthened the tee on 13. And he said, players are hitting more drivers now, where I think it was up to 90% were hitting drivers, where it was down to 40%. And then it creates this decision. They get into a spot where, because they're not hitting it into the pine straw, they're actually in a position to make a momentous decision, which was Bobby Jones' words, about now going for this green in 2 on a par 5. And so that was one of the things that he wanted it to be, and it sort of had drifted away from this momentous decision because it was just 3-wood, short iron, and that's not a momentous decision. That's just how you play the hole. So I do think there's concern, though, right? I mean, you talked about the first hole. There's really nothing they can do without taking out Eisenhower Cabin, which they don't have any intention of taking down Eisenhower Cabin. And so that was a kind of a lighthearted comment to say, we have a lot of resources, a lot more than most golf courses, and we don't want to have to continue to lengthen this, this property. But most places don't have the luxury that we have, and so something needs to be done to roll this back. Now, the other side of that is later that day, Bob and I were sitting under the tree behind the clubhouse talking with a leading industry executive in the equipment world, and his comment was, look, we're built to beat that. I thought that was really interesting. So if you go back 20 years, the USGA came out with limits on the COR of drivers, the trampoline effect and how a ball could trampoline off the face of a driver. They put limits on that to try to squash the distance. And those same manufacturers created ways within those parameters to make the ball go further and straighter off the face, right? So he basically said, we're going to do what they tell us to do. And he said, the best players in the world might lose 4 or 5 yards, and the rest of us won't notice anything. And they'll continue to innovate to be able to generate more distance, better ball flight under those new conditions. So it almost feels like, yeah, let's do something about it, but how much is this really going to impact the distance in the game as it goes forward? So I thought that was it's an interesting discussion that I think will continue to unfold over the next few years.
I remember Jack Nicklaus talking about this, and it had to be 10 years ago, and it might have been longer. Maybe Jack's been talking about it forever. I don't know. Maybe it goes back to when Tiger was revolutionizing distances off the tee. Do something about the golf ball. And I get your point that whenever there's a rule, people will try to find the loophole. The NCAA recruiting, that's been famous for that. But you have to be who the NFL is. It's why the NFL is the NFL in part. It's like they make a rule to make the offense better. The defense figures out how to get the upper hand. As soon as scoring drops, the offense figures out how to the rule makers figure out how to give the offense another advantage. It's been going on forever. I don't think they can take a one size, we've done it. Now we've done it. It's just going to have to be an ongoing thing because someone will always be looking for a loophole and looking for an edge.
Yeah, and it's and whether it's a loophole, I think it's their core business, right? And the other side of it is the USGA and the RNA, they sit back and they make these decisions, and this is not being critical of the USGA. They see a need here, and so they say, well, this is what we're going to do, but then they don't really have to deal with the ramifications of it. All of a sudden, the manufacturers, and speaking to this one particular, he said, look, we've spent millions of dollars already in R&D, retooling, all the things we have to do in order to generate this new golf ball. And then you start looking at bifurcation. And so what if it did come to bifurcation? Now we're going to have to spend millions of dollars to create a product that no one's going to buy because the professionals don't buy their equipment. It's
Right.
given to them, right? The whole business model is let's sell it to the consumers based on what their favorite players and the best players in the world are using. And so if that suddenly becomes different, well, Scotty Scheffler's ball is not necessarily the ball you're buying. That changes marketing. It's a cost factor for the manufacturers, and will they continue to do that? At the same time, if you're the tour and people want to come out here and they want to watch these guys bomb the drives, do you really want to try to roll that back to where it doesn't look like they're bombing it as far as the guys at the club are bombing it because they're using a shorter golf ball, and those kind of that suddenly now affects the look of your product. So there's so many nuances to all of this, and yet at the same time, at its core, it's like, okay, if you're just back home and I'm going around Alpine Country Club and I'm 52 years old and I'm hitting driver wedge into all the par fours, that's not necessarily the best thing either, right? I mean, there ought to be a time when you're hitting 7 irons and 8 irons and 6 irons. You got to, we have 14 clubs in the bag. Let's try to use them all. And so I understand that there's an issue. I just don't know exactly what the resolution will be.
And it's up to the leadership to make all these decisions to promote the game, put it in its best possible foot, basically, I guess, going forward. And I'm wondering, Brian, how much you really trust that leadership, because you are a U of U guy who bleeds red, and the PGA Tour CEO, Rolap, is a BYU grad.
Yeah. So clearly, I'm already at odds.
Right, exactly.
With that man who we share the same first name, but I've never met him.
I can tell there's a lot of friction there, even though you've never met him, just because of the rivalry. Yeah. And especially now, Brian, since BYU, especially now, Brian, since BYU clearly has the upper hand on Utah.
DJ was PK just sitting there while we were talking about all this, going, "Okay, this is getting really boring. We got to shake this up."
Yes.
We got to do something here.
I mean, we were getting a little technical there, and DJ was licking his lips, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, will this end? That's the difference between the two of us.
We're not going to talk about Olazabal, who's leading the 90th Masters through 7 holes. I mean, it's not too late. You could throw some money at Jose Maria.
I would love to talk about in honor of Seve Ballesteros. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's the next closest thing we have to him. No offense to what's the other guy's name who won the Masters?
John Rahm.
Oh yeah, okay. You got Rahm. Yeah, you got a few guys. I was thinking
Sergio.
I was thinking of Sergio, yeah. And then who's the old guy who wears the ponytail?
Miguel Angel Jimenez.
Yeah, where he made that statement. What do I care about making a putt? After this, I've got a bottle of wine and a gorgeous woman waiting for me. And I thought, that's gross.
No, you didn't. You loved that. Hey, by the way, during Rahm's press conference, he had mentioned about that at the Champions Dinner his first year, they started telling Seve stories. And even though he had studied Seve and thought he'd heard all the stories, there was a bunch that were told that he'd never heard. And then he left it at that. And I'm like, really? I'm looking around the room. No one's going to – I'm raising my hand. I'm like, hey, can we go back to these stories? Is there one you can share? And he shared a great story. So if you want to go, it's about 18:30 into his interview. You can hear him tell that story that they shared at the Champions Dinner about Seve. It was pretty good stuff. So
nice.
Love it.
Excellent. Well, Brian, thanks for the time. As always, get back out there. Where do you go next? What's the next? Go ahead and make us all jealous. Where are you going to go camp out and watch some golf?
I am heading out. We've got Xander Schauffele, who I know that, that's a big deal for you guys' bet, but he is teeing off momentarily, or maybe just did. And so I'm going to go out there and watch him go around a few holes. And Matt McCarty, the inaugural champion at Black Desert. Yeah, he's I think through 5 or 6. So I'm going to try to catch up with him, and then we'll find out how his second Masters is treating him when he's done. And saw Michael Brennan, who won last year's event, and he's playing in his first Masters. And I tell you what, man, that guy, he is fun to watch. He pounds. Speaking of distance, man, that guy can hit the ball. So he's going around in his first this afternoon too. So we've got, and then Wiersy just tees off here in about maybe 45 minutes. So we're going to try to catch a little bit of all those guys and then do some interviews afterwards, and all preparation for the show.
Just make sure you bring your phone and talk loudly while you're out there.
In fact, why don't you call me while I'm standing next to the green? I'll turn my ringer on.
Okay.
Yeah, turn it all the way up.
Yeah.
Did Bob tell you we all passed on Scheffler? New rule, you can only draft a guy once a year. None of us trust him in the Masters. We all passed on Scheffler.
Meredith just gave birth, and now he's got Remy and Bennett he has to worry about. How do you expect him to think about golf?
I mean, there's 3 of you, so there's only 4 majors. So not one of you wanted to take them for a third green jacket. That does surprise me.
Well, he's all caught up in the birth of Remy.
No, that's just what he needed. Kind of get off the little distraction from some of the tough play he's had. He's going to come out here and light it up.
Oh, wow. Well, maybe you and I, you said Olazabal, maybe put some, big time, on that one, huh?
Side bet.
Yeah, I got you Five Guys hamburger on me if you want to put that on there. So
bringing back a pimento sandwich. That'll keep.
Hey, I sent the family, ordered it 2 weeks ago. Taste of the Masters arrived at the Taylor house yesterday. So my fam will be doing the whole sandwich picnic thing, watching the Masters. So, yeah, you can do that. If you haven't done that, you should definitely do that. It's pretty cool. The pimento cheese is not great, though. But the egg salad and the barbecue, it's awesome.
And it's cheap.
So, oh, yeah. Well, the Taste of the Masters is not quite as, but it does come with 24 souvenir cups and napkins, coasters, the whole thing. Like, it's a thing. It's fun. Do it. Check it out.
Brian, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys. Good to visit with you as always. Enjoy the Masters.
Brian Taylor, Real Golf Radio, Saturday morning, 8 to 10. He and Bob will have their show, and they'll be on alternating shows all day today and tomorrow with updates on the first two rounds. Coming up at the 9 o'clock hour, we're going to talk with Mark Durant, BYU basketball radio analyst, Cole Bagley, Utah Mammoth Insider at 9:30. Stay with us right here on The Zone. DJ and PK, we just talked Masters with Brian Taylor, who's at Augusta National. Real Golf Radio is brought to you by Mountain America Credit Union, Mountain Land Supply, Black Desert Resort, Hoops Vision, and You Win a Golf. If you missed that conversation with Brian, get it wherever you get your podcasts. Our whole show is podcasts. Individual interviews are broken out. Yak's got it up at KSLSports.com, at YouTube. Wherever you get your podcasts, it is there. Check it out. Question up on our Facebook page, PK, and this one, these two kind of go together. What will it take for college fans to revolt, and do the Cougars need to get Collin Chandler with everybody else leaving? And it seems like when you land one of these guys, everybody gets super excited. When one leaves, then everybody gets super bitter, and people aren't really going to revolt, are they? I mean, it's just, what is the last round? Is the last bit of news good news, or is the last bit of news bad news? And everyone it's riding a roller coaster. I'm sick of this. It's great. It's great. I'm sick of this.
But a lot of energy he brings, and he's fun to watch and all that, but he's going to get over $1 million. And really, that kind of cash to play, you're a decent player, I'll give you that, and you are fun to watch, but you're not a star, you're never going to be a star, not even sure that you can make money playing across the world. Certainly not an NBA player. Are we looking at that? And this field of 68, I saw this morning, and I'm looking at it right now, pulled more than 10 high major head coaches and assistants and GMs for the prices of guys that are elite, right? Mm-hmm. Top 25. So big men now are commanding up to $5 million, point guards up to $4 million, and wings 2.5 to 3. And then it's going to filter down. When we envisioned this, we thought, guys, the ones who are getting the attractions, like, you really couldn't pay Jordan enough money.
Yeah.
Because, the amount of money he brought to everyone, it's the same thing with Tiger, right? Tiger took golf to a place where it had never been, and made so many people so much money, and coaches' salaries and so forth. And so a kid like a Keith Van Horn way back when, you'd see kids wearing 44 jerseys, but it couldn't say Van Horn, and he got no money. A kid like Jimmer, 32. Now, I don't know anybody's number on BYU's basketball team, but a kid who played 15 years ago, I remember his number. And that's Jimmer, right? And he didn't get any money out of it. And his parents, and I can recall, they were struggling financially. Man, that okay, yeah. But all this chaos that's in and around it, is that enough to say, I'm out? I wonder if it really is, because a few years back with the Kaepernick and the kneeling and this and that's it, I am out. Those SOBs, forget that. I am not watching NFL football ever again. And basketball has gotten so woke, I'm done with that. Well, is that really just what you're saying in the moment? Because
yes.
for if you're saying that in the moment, that means you were in, right? And if you were in, probably like you, me, and Yak, you've been in for as long as you can remember, right? It's what we do. It's what floats our boat. It's what we talked to when our fathers were living, and you and I went through this exact same thing. We moved away, so we would most of our communication would be on the phone, and after big games, we would talk. And what would we talk about? Sports. It's an old Billy Crystal line in one of his movies. I couldn't talk to my father about anything when I was in my teens and 20s, but we could always talk about the Yankees, right? And so we were at opposite viewpoints of the world, and he's talking about when he was growing up, when it was the tumultuous 60s, but I could talk about the Yankees, right? We can relate to that. So that means you're in. And do you just get caught up in the moment saying, I'm out? But then over time, you're really out. I just wonder, are you really out? Didn't you come back? Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind you came back a little. Maybe, probably, you came back all the way. You just said, screw it, I'm not going to worry about that stuff anymore.
For every person that is out, and some people probably are out, there's a line of people who are in right behind them. And we just keep hearing about all these record ratings. And I know they've changed how they do the TV numbers, but look at attendance. You know, I think for college football, I think the measuring stick is watch the 7 and 8 win programs. And the programs that live in that range pretty routinely, how do they do? Because if you're winning 10, 11, 12 games, it's pretty predictable you're going to have massive crowds. And if you're winning 2, 3, 4 games, it's pretty predictable you're not going to have anybody there. So show me what the teams are doing they're good, they're decent, they win more than they lose. And, if you win 7 or 8, you're probably winning most of your home games, right? You're probably more likely to lose an extra game or two on the road. Are those places still packed? And right now in college football, those places are largely full.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the issue, though. I'm asking, what's it going to take for you to be out? I'm not asking, what's it going to take for this sport to be decimated? Because I don't think that's ever going to happen. It's an individual thing. Your neighbor, Frank, is he out? I think that was the point of the question. Are you going to be out? Not is the sport going to be ruined and is it going to go away? Because I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, from that perspective, for me, the question is what would take you out? It'd be real life events. Which stuff in your real life requires attention? The sports becomes, okay, I don't have to watch that right now. Even in our line of work, if you have to occasionally miss a game, there are ways to catch up on what happened. And we see so many of them that missing one isn't really going to pull you out, and maybe in college football because there's so few. Excuse me, but missing one isn't really going to have you lose the storyline. So I don't know. The stuff that pulls me away probably isn't the game itself. It's probably more about real life.
Yeah, but in real life, you're making it sound like it's serious real life. So it's not little Joey's 5th birthday where you rent a pony or a jumping gym.
No, it's you're talking about serious stuff. If your friends and family spread out, do you have to travel to see them? And we all know when we travel, we lose track of stuff a little bit. And certainly there is the whole, serious, illness, death, funeral
right,
stuff.
And that's the stuff that makes me turn to it more.
Yeah, even in that situation, I was going to say,
I want release.
So funny. I remember all the regular. You were just talking the other day about how you remember all the NCAA. It was during March Madness. You remember all these NCAA tournament games that you covered, but all these regular season games blend together. And I remember one specific Utah regular season game back in their basketball glory days. They went to Oregon State and they won. And they didn't play great right away, but then they took control of the game. I think they ended up winning by 10 or something. And the reason I remember the game is because I was at the hospital. My wife was giving birth. And, you rush there at the first sign. It's the first kid. And, okay, it's going to be a while. And they give her something. They tell her to go to sleep. And now I'm sitting there wide awake at 9 o'clock at night. She's asleep. What am I going to do? I had the TV on and the sound down. And I was watching the game. So you're right. Even in these big life moments, okay, hurry up and wait for a few hours. And it turned out the kid was born 10 hours later. So there's a lot of waiting going on. Right. What are you going to do? And you're going to watch a game.
So I don't think that these sports will be irreparably harmed. No matter how, and I'm just using this as an argument. It isn't. I'm not necessarily my opinion. How woke the NBA is, I just don't think that it's going to be played where nobody cares. I don't see it. But I'm wondering how many individuals have made the decision to say, I'm out. How many BYU fans have said, I'm out? I just don't think there's that many. Although we get frustrated and, oh, man, they're pushing me to the brink. Okay. But they haven't pushed over the line. And you're not going to be over the line. And this Bruce Branch, who's a 4 or 5 star coming in next year, and if Collin Chandler comes, and they're going to have probably 5 others, and they've got the kid from Timpview coming in, and he's supposed to be really good, and we're all excited to see how he'll do, sharpshooter, tall kid, blah, blah, blah. I know somebody who works down there who's just been singing his praises to me for several years now, long before I even heard of the kid, and we're excited about that. And we're excited about Bear Bachmeier going into his sophomore year, right? And, man, this stuff, get out. And there's no loyalty. There's no this. There's no that. Blah, 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 blah. But yet, I don't know that I've really met a person that is out. I hear many people say, oh, I'm going to go out.
Yeah.
Or even if they say it, do they really stay out? So I don't know that there'll ever be a breaking point.
It's the frustration of the moment, I think, reacting to the last bit of news. Is the money going to get so big in college sports that people are going to go away? I would say no, because the money's gotten enormous in pro sports, and that doesn't seem to be driving people away. And for the person who does go away, there's 2 people in line right behind him.
But what I think,
and even when teams are, the Jazz are tanking and people know it, and there's still people in the arena cheering and screaming. And there's a secondhand market, so if somebody doesn't want to go, you list your tickets, you find a neighbor, whatever, and somebody else is in the seats.
I do think, though, that people will come to the realization that this doesn't mean that much, that it's just for fun. I think that will be more likely to be that. And when our teams win, we'll say, yeah, that was awesome in the moment. And then 3 days later, yeah, that was awesome. And now I got to go
That's
work.
an interesting point. Will, let's assume that this rebuild goes really well and the Jazz are making deep playoff runs, is there ever going to be the frenzy in this state that we saw when they went to the finals in 97 and 98?
If they got to the finals, yeah, but I don't think it will be a live and die type thing.
Yeah.
I think they'll enjoy it, and it'll be fun, especially in this. And no matter how big this state gets, it will still be small, comparative. And there'll still be a level of innocence. And I do think there's a level of spirituality that brings you into it, because especially when you did stuff with your mother and father and they're gone. And the team that the 3 of you rooted for, along with whomever,
right,
finally wins, it'll be, you'll celebrate, not because that team has won, because it'll take you back to your childhood. And you did this more than I did, of going to these games.
Yep.
And makes you think of those times. That's what I think baseball has. You know, the romanticism of having a catch in the Field of Dreams and that type of stuff. And, you know, were you a really diehard live and die? Maybe not. But it bonded you with your father, or it bonded you with your mother, whomever it might be, or your brother, I don't know, well, whomever. And I think that's what, in its essence, sports is an experience that you share. It's not something that's done individually, right? Hardly anybody goes to the games alone, or maybe they watch the games alone if they're way, way into it. But I think most of us That's what I think I see happening a little bit, is people finding, as you age and go through the ups and downs, particularly the downs, you look at sports for what it is, and it's still fun for you, but it doesn't have that overwhelming meaning. I can see that, but I don't see people saying, I'm out, forget it, goodbye.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coming up, top of the hour, we will talk with Mark Durant, longtime radio voice, joining Greg Wrubell on the broadcast. His take on players coming and going and what the Cougars need to do to have a better tournament run next year. We'll talk with him at the top of the hour right here on The Zone. DJ and PK, it's time to give away some more stuff. Utah Mammoth tickets. Who wants to go? They're lower.
I do.
Caller 12, 801-575-ZONE. 801-575-ZONE. That's 575-9663. 801-575-9663. Caller 12 right now goes to see Carolina and Utah Saturday at the Delta Center. Colorado's got the best record in the league. Carolina has the best record in the Eastern Conference, sitting on 106 points, second highest point total in the entire National Hockey League. So, big game, difficult game. We'll see how the Mammoth handle it. They got the Predators tonight, who are 4 points behind them in the playoff race. So, getting right down to it, 5 games left for the Mammoth, 4 games left for the Predators. It would be a big deal if they can get a win tonight and pull away.
Most special, yes.
I'm intrigued by the thought of Collin Chandler coming back to town. And I wonder, PK, and I know you've heard this, Yock's heard it too, there are BYU fans who are upset that the recruiting has changed, right? But if the goal is to do something you've never done before, you need to recruit like you've never recruited before. However, don't think you can walk away from everything. You got to figure out this new balance of what is going to get it done so you can routinely be not just a tournament team, but a team that wins in the tournament. So there's a lot of Sweet 16, so there's more opportunities to finally win those games in the round of the Sweet 16, the round of the Elite Eight, and finally get that first trip to the Final Four. And Collin Chandler is interesting because it's the profile of a kid that BYU would have always wanted, right? Coming out of Farmington, and he's really good. But a lot of these players aren't going to be really good right away. And if BYU's trying to be really good every year, how many guys can they bring on who are projects? So this letting players go wherever they go, and it's weird to think of Kentucky as a training ground for BYU. That just sounds ridiculous to say out loud. But nonetheless, you look at what he did in his 2 years there. You know, as a freshman, he only played 10 minutes a game, and he shot 36%. I mean, that's just not good enough. He shot almost 35 from three. As a sophomore, clearly he's improving, right? The shooting percentage goes from 36 to 43, and the three-point percentage goes from about 35 to 41. But still, you look at the end of the season, he did not shoot it well in the NCAA tournament. Actually, if you look at the last 5 games, last 2 SEC regular season games, and his last, the 3 games they played in the SEC tournament, he shot less than 40% over that 5-game stretch. So there's still stuff he's figuring out. He's still growing. He's getting bigger. He's getting stronger. He's getting more experience. They need these guys. Maybe they'll need them right away as a freshman, but this, the thought of bounce-back kids, they may need a lot more of that.
I think it's a situation where you get in a pattern. So you don't rely on freshmen, but then those freshmen grow up, and then you recruit more freshmen, and then those freshmen grow up. It's like when Lavelle Edwards was having 2 quarterbacks every 2 years, play for 2 years, sit for 2 years, play for 2 years, blah, blah, blah. And so they had that assembly line thing going on, and I think that's what you want. And so you have guys that are learning as they go, and then their time comes and they're ready to go, and then you augment that. And so rather than having massive turnover every single year, because I don't think BYU's ever going to achieve the level of success that they want, no matter how much they pay these guys, if they're trading rosters every year. And they're going to do it again. He's going to be 3 for 3 in training and overhauling rosters. because right now they literally have no starters returning. 0. Right? None. And so you're going to have to overhaul it, because I don't think the guys that were the reserves are ready to be NCAA tournament level starters. Successful, not in the Big 12, maybe in the West Coast, but you ain't there anymore. You're in the Big 12. It's the Big 12. And so you need some horses. You need some studs. And they got to find a way to get those now. But because of bringing in all these kids who have little connection to BYU outside of basketball and a paycheck, and then they leave, you've put yourself in this position of that revolving door. And is there a way out of it?
All right, DJ and PK, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will talk Cougar basketball, the trends in college basketball, and what BYU could and should be leaning into. Mark Durant will join us next. Stay with us.